It starts when you notice that Hans Zimmer's majestic score is played on a church organ, specifically the 1926 Harrison and Harrison organ of London's Temple Church. Then you start to notice things. The plan to save humanity is a bit like Noah's Ark. Joseph Cooper, initials JC, is 33 when he falls into the black hole. The same age Jesus Christ was crucified. And, wait, is Matt Damon the greatest of us, fallen into ice? Is Matt Damon Satan? And why is Anne Hathaway whiffling on about love?
Love isn't
Yuck.
something we invented.
Oh, they didn't. They did. No! They put religion in my sci-fi. This was a dramatic reconstruction of what I think it was like for many science fiction fans to watch Christopher Nolan's 2014 movie, Interstellar. Or, for some of you, now. Many people watch Interstellar and never notice the religion. On one level, Interstellar is hard science fiction, sci-fi that is accurate to science as we know it. The movie's iconic and now much imitated black hole remains the most accurate simulation of gravitational lensing and has generated numerous scientific papers. The Starship Endurance, its mission and design, the physics of time dilation and other effects on the planets visited are all based on accurate science, all guided by famous physicist Kip Thorne. Sure, the Scout craft's ability to take off and escape a gravity well is exaggerated. However, by any standards, Interstellar is diamond-hard science fiction. But it's also the story of Space Jesus, the role Matthew McConaughey was born to play. For many people, these two, science and religion, aren't supposed to go together. But for others, whether we know why or not, Interstellar fills us with the joy and awe of a religious experience. Interstellar isn't the greatest sci-fi movie, but it does want to be. Christopher Nolan directs Interstellar as a reverent homage to the sci-fi movie widely regarded as the greatest of all time, Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey. The cinematography, the narrative structure, the use of music. Nolan even oversaw the renovation of Kubrick's masterpiece. And both movies attempt an answer to one of the greatest philosophical questions of our time: nihilism. As religions died and science grew, philosophers in 18th century Europe began to talk about the danger of nihilism. If reality is just dead matter and mindless energy, human consciousness is just an illusion, and life is just a brief spark of suffering, why fucking bother? The dead religions had at least given people meaning. Science disenchanted the world, but without our illusions, the world seemed meaningless. Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who famously mocked the death of God, argued that we could not go back to religion. Instead, the few humans with the moral strength to face bleak reality would learn to make our own meaning, becoming the Übermensch. 2001 opens with Thus Spake Zarathustra as a nod to its Nietzschean influences, then tells a mythic story of man becoming Superman. Interstellar offers a different answer to the question of nihilism. What if the universe revealed by science is not meaningless? What if the laws of physics extrapolated far enough give us back the immortal soul, heavens above, and the love of God that once gave us meaning? What if science demonstrates that love is real? It's rare for a new tune to enter the liturgy of church organ music, but Hans Zimmer's score for Interstellar has become one of the most played new compositions in churches worldwide. This is no coincidence. Zimmer deliberately scored his minimalist masterpiece to evoke religious hymns and other sacred music. And Interstellar, under director Christopher Nolan, deliberately mirrors the spiritual experience many have found in church. The movie's spectacular IMAX cinematography is as breathtaking for us today as the stained glass windows of a Gothic cathedral 5 centuries earlier. For a 15th century peasant trudging through mud and plague, the cathedral was the highest sensory experience imaginable. Booming organs, wailing choirs, clouds of incense, and the luminous stained glass were the IMAX of their time. Also, the tickets were super overpriced and the snacks were all junk food. Most of life was repetitive and brutal. The liturgy offered transcendence. A story was told that life's pain was not meaningless, that beyond the grave lay heaven and God's love. So in the modern cathedral of cinema, Interstellar constructs a composite of Christian myths set in space, a religious experience for the scientific imagination, to show us that even in a universe doomed to heat death, love is real. Are you a venture capitalist, disgraced political leader, or former celebrity with a podcast nobody asked for? Do you already own the mansions, the yachts, and the private islands, yet still wake up screaming about the one problem your money can't fix? That's right, death. Well, fear no more, because today's video is sponsored by Arc to the Black Hole, Silicon Valley's definitive answer to the oldest unsolved problem in the universe. Rich people still have to die, but not anymore. Here's how it works. When you finally keel over from champagne poisoning or your 4th heart attack, our elite cryo-retrieval team will swoop in to liberate your head. Yes, just your head, for premium freeze storage at our luxury spa facility in Palo Alto. Think of it as Equinox, but for corpses. Once Arc construction begins, pending technologies we haven't invented yet, and a few trillion Bitcoin in Series Z funding, your frosty brain will be loaded onto our orbital mega yacht, then yeeted into a carefully chosen black hole. At the event horizon, your precious neurons will be lovingly translated into pure quantum information, the ultimate cloud storage solution. No server fees, no power outages, just eternal subscription to the void. And remember, you won't be alone. You'll join a community of fellow pioneers, billionaires, and washed-up athletes, or, as we like to call them, arc holes. So if you're ready to skip heaven, or for you, more likely hell, and or reincarnation as a slug, smash that investment button and reserve your seat today. Join your fellow arc holes on the arc to the black hole.
You're a scientist, Bran.
So listen to me when I say that love isn't something we invented. It's observable, powerful. It has to mean something.
Love has meaning. Yes, social utility, social bonding.
Maybe it's some evidence, some artifact of a higher dimension that we can't consciously perceive.
This scene between pilot Joseph Cooper and scientist Dr. Amelia Brand may be the most divisive in sci-fi cinema, in part because you can almost hear the gears of the narrative grinding to a halt. Nolan doesn't have Kubrick's confidence with visual symbolism, so midway into Interstellar, the story's core thematic question is explicitly stated. I do mean explicitly, like an actual speech. Is love real? And by real here, we mean real as in a physical force like gravity. No! Screamed 10,000 physicists in union. Love is not required to solve any fundamental problem. The standard model does not include affection. But in truth, Brand's speech gives us no answers. This scene isn't Interstellar, telling you that love is real. It'll do that later. This is two humans facing death. Their own, everyone they love, the entire species of human, as we're all going to face death. This is the confrontation with absolute annihilation that awaits every one of us. The real question isn't whether love exists. The real question is whether you can accept the answer. No. Matt Damon as Dr. Hugh Mann. Hugh Mann. Get it? On one level, we'll come back to the other level. Dr. Mann is the embodiment of science.
You once said that Dr. Mann was the best of
The
us.
best scientist of his time, an absolute believer in science. But in the face of his own annihilation, Mann encounters nihilism and is broken by it. Without any higher meaning, what is there but the struggle for survival? So this is the fundamental critique of science, that it can strip away illusion to show us bleak, unrelenting reality. But even the scientist can't accept the reality of an unloving universe.
You're feeling it, aren't you? A survival instinct.
And what is left without love is only the struggle for survival. We fear death, and we hunger for love. Dr. Mann can't face death because he fights only for his own survival. He ultimately loves only himself, but Cooper will be able to sacrifice himself because he loves the other. So here are the 18 Christian symbols in Interstellar, a selection of biblical motifs from the Genesis creation myth, Adam and Eve, Lucifer himself, and most of all, God's Son on earth, Matthew McConaughey. 1. Joseph is the father of Christ. 2. A cooper is a carpenter who makes barrels. 3. The initials JC equal Jesus Christ. So Coop, as we will discover, is his own father, allegorically speaking. 4. We first see Cooper falling from the heavens down to earth. He is a higher being manifested in the mortal world. 5. Cooper is 33 when he leaves Earth, the age of Jesus when he finds enlightenment. 6. We are told Cooper's story in the form of testaments by those looking back at the events. 7. Earth is blighted by a biblical plague. 8. Everyone is a farmer or shepherd again, a return to the agricultural civilization the Bible stories came from. 9. Lazarus is the name of a human raised from the dead by Jesus. 10. The people are being led to a new world by a wise old man. Yes, Michael Caine is Moses. 11. Moses sent 12 scouts to Canaan. 12 ranger pilots are sent to find a new world.
Led by the remarkable Dr. Mann.
The 12th ranger pilot, the best of us, is Dr. Mann, who has fallen to evil.
A survival instinct.
Let's stop and think about Dr. Mann again. He is Satan, the Lucifer of Milton's Paradise Lost, the being of high intellect who believes he can save the world. But that same power of intellect has led him also to fear, lies, violence, and murder.
And I resisted the temptation for years.
This is a core Christian belief that the rational reasoning mind, represented as Satan or Lucifer, or as the scientist Dr. Mann, is the root of evil and the cause of humankind's fall into mortal existence. Hell, in Kubrick's 2001, represents the same capacity for violence in the rational mind. The same mind that invents technology also uses it for violence. It's the rational mind that must be transcended for humanity to evolve. Paradise Lost is actually less certain in its condemnation of the reasoning mind. Lucifer is a rather charming being in Milton's telling, which is why the epic poem is one of the gateway narratives to the modern era, where reason and rationality rule.
One thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space.
13. Love transcends time and space. Let's stop again and think more about Anne Hathaway's speech on love. The speech is a description of the Christian principle of agape, or unselfish love, that is given without expectation of a return. The love of a father for his child. This is why, for the Christian, God is love. When you feel unselfish love for the other, that is God. By following that love, humanity can raise ourselves up to heaven. But in the scientific worldview, love is only a behavioural byproduct of evolutionary forces or utilitarian social drives. To follow love is irrational. So Brand's speech suggests a way to make love compatible with science, by formulating it as a higher dimension that transcends space and time. So we can rationally follow love to heaven, which takes us to the conclusion of Interstellar and a scientifically compatible redemption.
Nice reckless flying.
Learn from the master. Ranger 2, prepare to detach.
What? No! No! Cooper!
3.
Cooper, what are you doing?
Newton's third law. You gotta leave something behind.
14. Self-sacrifice to save humankind. Cooper chooses to sacrifice his life to literally save all humankind in frozen form. Cooper's crucifixion is the fall into Gargantua, flanked by Tars and Case, who represent the good thief and the bad thief who join Christ in heaven or do not. 15. A higher dimensional heaven. The Tesseract places Cooper beyond dimensions of space and time. It's basically a mathematically reconcilable heaven. Paradise for nerds. The afterlife for atheists. 16. The material trinity. From the Tesseract, Cooper the Father is able to commune with his earlier self, the Son, via gravity fluctuations, the Ghost. So Interstellar gives us a scientifically credible Holy Trinity. Humanity is our own God, guiding our evolution from the future towards the great O'Neill cylinder in the sky, navigating via the trans-dimensional force of love. 17. Relativity resurrection. Like Christ resurrected after the crucifixion, the physics of relativity and the phenomenon of time dilation allow Cooper to be resurrected just in time to realise what an awful father he is. 18. Adam and Eve. Cooper goes back to be with Brand and they become Adam and Eve to the frosty, frozen next generation of humankind, fulfilling basically the most cliched idea in science fiction. I can't even begin to list the number of great, second-rate, or truly awful science fiction stories that contain the Adam and Eve trope, but Interstellar merrily repeats it. So there we have it. Interstellar is 2 movies in one. It's a somewhat scientifically rigorous depiction of interstellar exploration, and it's the story of Space Jesus. But then it brings the 2 stories together to suggest that perhaps the human dream of existence beyond space and time, of life after death, might be scientifically possible in higher dimensions of space and time. And that love might be the higher dimensional force holding reality together, i.e., God. Which is why Interstellar generates religious awe in some of us and feels like a hypocritical Sunday sermon to others. For the purposes of humour, we've called Matthew McConaughey Space Jesus, but really, he is the Space Christ. In his book, The Universal Christ, Franciscan friar and mystic Richard Rohr reminds us that Christ is not Jesus' last name. Jesus was probably a minor historical figure who was killed for leading a rebellion against Rome. Opinions on this vary. Christ is an archetypal narrative, probably evolving from pagan gods like Dionysus and miracle maker magician characters from Indian myths. If you really want to dive deeper into this subject, read Eon by Carl Jung, which traces the evolution of the Christ archetype through human history. Richard Rohr calls this archetype the universal Christ. This Christ does not belong to any one church or religion. The New Testament is just one telling of the Christ archetype. Every culture, every new generation has a need to retell the Christ story in its own language and in its own symbols to complement its beliefs and values. And there is no more universal Christ than Matthew McConaughey. Interstellar is a telling of the Christ myth for the modern, scientifically enlightened, and increasingly atheist culture of the 21st century Western world. Interstellar is a religious experience for the scientific imagination.
Rage against the dying of the light.
But it just doesn't quite work. Partly because Interstellar is a movie trying to do too much in too little time, even for its almost 3-hour runtime. Space exploration, Bildungsroman kitchen sink drama, and on top of all that, Nolan's obsessive attempt to outdo the greatest sci-fi movie ever made, Kubrick's 2001. And it's not like sci-fi retellings of Jesus Christ are in short supply. But put the movie's narrative challenges aside, let's think critically about Christopher Nolan's project to fuse the mythos of sci-fi and Christ to give us back a scientifically credible version of Christian faith. It still doesn't answer the problem of nihilism. The philosopher Albert Camus famously stated that the only serious philosophical problem was whether to kill ourselves or choose to live. In his famous essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, Camus compares man to the cursed Greek king rolling his boulder uphill, then seeing it roll down again and again. We keep making up meanings, putting vast effort into constructing entire systems of thought, religions, ideologies, philosophies, sciences. On a long enough timeline, all human meaning is destroyed by reality. So reframing a desert cult that peaked in popularity 500 years ago into the current flavour of materialist philosophy is cool. But it doesn't answer your nihilism problem, because there is no answer. Albert Camus argued that the only answer was absurd. All we can do is revolt against reality. Reality is utterly without meaning. So we must create meanings to give reality the finger. We must not go gently into that good night. We must rage against the dying of the light. We must love, even if everything and everyone we love will not even be dust, will not even be forgotten. And maybe, in the end, Interstellar tells us that much.